how much harder is it to obtain a mortgage these days? And why is the Fed cutting rates? Well, today on Sold and Closed podcast, Sunny Hong from Citizens Bank is going to answer those questions. Sunny Hong, Citizens Bank, thanks for joining us on Sold and Closed. Let the audience know a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Sunny Hong. I'm a producing sales manager at Citizens Bank. I've been here for about 5 years now. I've been in the industry for 14 years. Our primary business is residential home loans in the tri-state area, mostly focused in New York.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us today. Obviously, there's a lot happening in the world of real estate. It is April 21st. We are in the middle of weeks into a quarantine. The real estate market is, there's so much uncertainties. Everybody has questions. First and foremost, let's talk about rates. Mortgage rates were already coming down earlier this year. Then the Fed had that first emergency rate cut of the year on March 3rd. And then about 2 weeks later, there was another reduction, or another cut rather, of a full percentage point, I think. Why is this happening?
The Fed cut happened because we need liquidity in the market. Basically, the Fed's pumping money into the market right now to spur lending. So the Fed funds rate that was lowered, in recent weeks and months, they don't have a direct impact on mortgage rates. So you'll see a direct impact on credit card rates, car loans, student loans, but not necessarily on mortgage rates. However, it tends to follow suit. What's really been driving mortgage rates lower is that the Fed's been buying up treasuries. So they're really just, they're basically the money in the market right now that's funding, that's spurring lending.
Should current homeowners be taking advantage of this opportunity to refinance? Are they going to save money?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, it really depends on when they purchased their home or when they last refinanced. But typically, from what I'm seeing, almost everybody or majority of the people who bought last year or the year prior is refinancing. I think if you can drop your rate at least 0.5%, it's typically going to make sense where you're going to recoup the closing costs in a reasonable time.
What do those closing costs look like on a refi? Are they pretty straightforward?
So it varies depending on if it's a co-op or a condo or a real property like a single family or a condo. Co-op is pretty straightforward where it's about $3,000 for closing costs for a condo or a single family house. It varies depending on the loan amounts. Typically, we can do what's called a CMA, which is a consolidation extension modification agreement for the mortgage tax. So the buyer doesn't have to pay that again. But with that being said, it really depends on the loan size. But as a general rule, I would say 1% of your loan amount is probably a rough estimate that I would, general rule of thumb.
There's some new challenges obtaining loans due to the impact of the coronavirus. What are some of those challenges that you are starting to see?
Yeah, I mean, guidelines have started to tighten up, for sure, as far as assets go. For anybody that has retirement accounts, stock accounts, the balance they had in February is no longer, right? Most people saw a dip in that. So, we're reanalyzing assets closer to closing dates. We want to make sure that, if somebody has a brokerage account, it hasn't dipped a lot, or they have enough to be able to still close. Income and employment verifications are critical now. So even up to the day of closing, we're still verifying whether their job has been impacted by COVID.
Have you seen that in your own transactions? Have you seen much shifting from smooth sailing to not so fast?
Right. As far as from a processing and underwriting standpoint, we've been operational. It's almost been business as usual. Appraisals and closings have been a little different, but I have been experiencing buyers that are directly impacted, whether they're on furlough, completely lost their job, or they don't have the same assets they had in their bank account or stock accounts anymore. So I have been seeing it, unfortunately, I'm seeing it more often than not.
What have your closings been looking like over the last few weeks? I mean, they're all virtual now, right? Are they going smoothly? How's that
Yeah.
experience?
So, it's, I've been talking to all my buyers after the closing and even talking to the attorneys and the brokers involved. So it's been interesting. Every closing's been done slightly different from another. I mean, I had a closing, this was late last week. The closing was done in a car, um, where the closer was in one car and the buyers were in another car.
No way.
And so the closer was witnessing the signing through the window of the car and then passing paperwork through the window. And you
Wow.
can't make this stuff up. I mean, that's what people have been doing. I mean, I just had another one that was done earlier this week. It was a co-op refinance. They did it in the lobby while the closer stood outside the lobby, and they just witnessed them signing. And then after they were done with the documents, they left it with the doorman, and the closer went in to pick up the document, and off they went.
Is this the new normal? Is this how we're going to do closings forever?
I don't think this is the new normal, but I think, who knows? I think the fact that this has been working could be a part of the new normal. Maybe we're gonna start expanding how we do closings, and not everybody has to sit in a small room to sign anymore. So maybe there is going to be some more flexibility that maybe there is some good that comes out of this, right?
Yeah.
So I do think, especially in New York, being an attorney state, it's hard. We do have there's an executive order that allows this currently, and until that's removed, that's how we're doing business.
And speaking of changes in routine, shifting over to you personally, obviously you're working from home. We're all working from home. How has your routine changed now that you're working from home?
It's like Groundhog Day every day now. I wake up, I can't even tell what day of the week it is anymore. I mean,
They're all blending.
Straight from my bed to my desk, and it's.
Do you have any tips for making the most of our days here, work-wise?
There's for those that are fortunate enough to be able to keep busy with work, I think the way I look at this opportunity is I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I say, this is the opportunity where, sometimes I'm working 12, 14-hour days plus, and I don't get to spend time with my family. And I try to use this opportunity to make up for a lot of lost time with family.
I hear that. I also have an 8-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter, and talk about a silver lining, being able to hang out with them, right? I mean, on one hand, it's distracting. It's like, I still have to work. But it really is great to spend that extra time. And, like you said earlier, good things are going to come out of this for sure, all over the map. And I really appreciate you taking the time, speaking with me today and giving us some of that feedback. And I hope to do this again soon.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me.